Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into something that's really foundational to a lot of modern success thinking.
We are.
We're doing a deep cut on Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, but through a very specific lens. We're looking at what Vic Johnson calls the pyramid of power.
And this is such a critical distinction for you to understand right away.
Right.
We're not talking about, mystical pyramids or sleeping in them for energy.
Right. No crystals.
No,
Yeah.
not at all. The pyramid of power is really a framework, a set of principles that Hill discovered by studying, 500 of the most successful people of his time?
hmm
It's a system designed to create massive personal power.
A closed loop system is how our sources put it. So our mission today is to unpack that, to really get into how these three core elements, desire, faith, and decision, stack on top of each other.
And how they create a self-sustaining cycle. It's a loop that once you get it going, just accelerates you towards your goals.
Exactly. We want to get past the basics and into the actual mechanics of what Hill was building.
Yeah.
So we have to start at the bottom, the foundation. And Hill puts this right after his introduction. It's desire.
The very first one.
Yeah. And it sounds so simple, right? Just wanting something. But he claims this is the absolute beginning of all achievement. And that sounds great, but let's be real. For a modern listener, how do we just manufacture white-hot desire? I mean, we're often burned out. We have a million competing goals. Doesn't that just feel like motivational pressure?
It's a fair challenge. And that's exactly why we have to dig into the words he used. He didn't just say desire. He demanded white-hot desire.
Okay.
And to really get the weight of that term, you have to go back in time a bit to the context. The book came out in 1937.
All right.
So many people then, they worked in or they lived near huge industrial factories with these massive kilns and smelters. They knew firsthand that when fire gets to its absolute hottest temperature, the color changes. It goes from red to yellow and then finally to white.
So white hot wasn't just a metaphor. It was almost a technical term for the absolute peak intensity.
Precisely. It was his way of saying that if your goal isn't backed by the hottest, most focused intensity you can possibly create, then anything you try to build on top of it is just going to be weak.
A lukewarm desire just collapses at the first sign of trouble.
It will. But, Hill didn't just say, feel this more intensely. He gave a tool, a practical mechanism for forging that desire.
And what was that?
It was what he called the definite chief aim statement. This is so crucial. Desire wasn't some vague wish, it was codified. You had to write down exactly what you wanted, the exact amount, the deadline for it.
What you give in return.
Yes, what you give in return,
Yeah.
and this is the key, you had to read it out loud, twice a day. That physical act of writing it and then speaking it, that's what transforms a simple wish into that focused, white-hot intensity.
So the foundation isn't a feeling, it's a specific written daily commitment. And that makes a lot more sense.
Okay, so once that foundation is in place, that white-hot, written-down desire, we move up to the second pillar, and that's faith. Now, Hill calls it faith, but you often hear it used with the word belief.
What's the useful distinction there for us? Is there one?
I think there is, and it's worth exploring. You can think of belief as the cognitive part. It's the logical side of your brain saying, okay, yeah, I can see how this might be
The
possible.
intellectual buy-in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But faith is the internal certainty. It's that deep emotional conviction that goes beyond pure logic. It's the feeling that your definite chief aim isn't just possible, it's inevitable.
That makes the order so interesting then, because Hill says that faith is, and I'm quoting him, the most powerful force on earth.
He does.
So why isn't it the foundation? Why does desire have to come first?
Because you can't really focus your faith until you have a specific white-hot target to aim it at. The desire gives you the target and all the energy. The faith gives you the conviction that you can actually hit it.
Oh, okay.
And his claim about it being the most powerful force, that's rooted in ancient wisdom. You see it everywhere. I mean, think about the analogy of the mustard seed.
Right, from the Bible.
Yes, but it's used across cultures. It's one of the smallest seeds, right? And the metaphor is always that even a tiny concentrated bit of conviction is enough to move mountains, metaphorically speaking.
So it's less a religious idea and more an ancient metaphor for leverage. A small, focused input creating a massive result.
Exactly. And just like with desire, Hill didn't leave it to chance. He gave people a specific technique to build faith, and it's one that often gets overlooked. It's autosuggestion.
Right.
If the definite chief aim is the goal, autosuggestion is the daily workout. It's a process of just repeatedly feeding your mind that statement, that conviction, until your subconscious mind has no choice but to accept it as fact.
So that repetition is what turns that logical belief into that unshakable emotional faith.
That's the 1-2 punch right there. Define the goal with desire, then build a conviction with faith through auto-suggestion. It's a powerful structure.
But, knowing what you want and even believing it's possible, it means nothing if you're frozen. The whole pyramid just falls apart if you don't add the catalyst.
The catalyst, that's a good way to put it.
Principle number 3, decision, which really means action.
And that order is absolutely essential. Desire has to fuel the faith, and then faith is what allows for decision and action. The philosopher James Allen said that belief precedes all action.
So if you try to take action before you have that faith,
your actions are going to be hesitant, they'll be weak, inconsistent. You won't have that decisiveness that Hill saw in every single successful person he studied.
So let's take an example. Someone has a white-hot desire to start a new business. They truly believe they can do it. But then they spend, 6 months just researching logos instead of actually trying to sell something? What's going wrong there in the decision phase?
They are failing at the absolute core of what Hill discovered about action. And remember, he didn't just study success. He studied 25,000 failures.
Wow.
And right at the top of his list for why people fail was a lack of decision, a lack of action. But he went deeper. He found that successful people make decisions quickly, and then they change them slowly, if they ever change them at all.
And failures do the opposite.
The complete opposite. They make their decisions slowly, agonizing over them, and then they change them fast at the first sign of any trouble.
That's such a key distinction. So the speed of the decision itself is a sign of success or failure.
It is. The ability to just pull the trigger and go, it shows how strong that faith pillar is underneath. If your conviction is shaky, you're going to hem and haw. And if you keep changing your mind, you're signaling to the world, and more importantly to your own subconscious, that you don't really believe in your own goal.
And that decisiveness, that's what gets the whole loop started, isn't it? It's the key to building momentum.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the real secret of this pyramid of power, the cycle of momentum. So we have the white-hot desire, we have the solid faith, we have the decisive action. How does that action then loop back around to make the desire even stronger?
This is the feedback mechanism.
Yeah.
This is the magic of the whole thing. The action you take, even if it's a tiny action, it produces a result. It gives you proof of concept.
Okay.
And when you see that progress, even a little bit, your brain releases neurochemicals like dopamine. It chemically rewards the path you just took. And that positive feedback creates more desire. It strengthens your belief. And critically, it gives you the confidence to take even bigger action next time.
That's how a normal desire becomes a sustained white-hot one.
That's the acceleration. It's not just motivation anymore. We're getting into, applied physics and biology here.
It sounds like it.
Seriously. You could look at this through the lens of Newton's first law of motion. A body at rest tends to stay at rest. A body in motion tends to stay in motion.
And the inertia of inaction is a huge psychological barrier. It keeps people stuck.
It's massive. If you are paralyzed in that decision stage, your brain is just comfortable staying at rest. It's the default state.
So if that inertia is the enemy, how do we guarantee we get into motion? I mean, we talk about massive action, but sometimes just starting feels impossible.
Well, the practical takeaway here is you have to trick the system. You don't have to start with massive action. You just need to get into motion. The key is to take the smallest possible step. Some people call it the 2-minute rule now.
I've heard of that.
If an action takes 2 minutes or less, you just have to do it immediately. No thinking, just do it. That breaks the inertia.
So if your massive action is write a book, the tiny step is write 1 sentence or just outline the first chapter.
Exactly. That minimal step guarantees motion.
Yeah.
And once you're in motion, Newton's law starts working for you, not against you. You are far more likely to stay in motion, which feeds your desire, which strengthens your faith, and the whole pyramid cycle just starts to spin faster and faster.
This gets us to what I call the knowledge gap paradox. I think this is where a lot of listeners get frustrated. They know these principles.
Oh, yeah.
Define your goal, believe in it, take action. It's simple, yet actually doing it feels so hard. Why can't we just do what we know we need to do?
Because the biggest hurdles are almost never external. They're internal. Hill's principles are sound, they work, but they're vulnerable to these deep-seated psychological blocks that sit right under the faith and decision pillars.
What kind of blocks?
We're talking about things like self-esteem issues, a deep sense of not being worthy of success, or, and this is a big one, how we process failure.
So if you don't believe you actually deserve the success your desire is pointing to,
your faith pillar is immediately undermined. It's built on sand.
and if your faith is weak, your decisions will be tentative and slow. which is Hill's definition of failure.
Precisely. And how you process failure is so crucial. If one small setback makes you question your entire desire, your entire belief system, the cycle just grinds to a halt. The real insight here is that once we conquer how we see failure, viewing it as data, as learning, not as proof that we're unworthy, and once we build that self-esteem, Hill's principles become almost automatic.
And it's fascinating how the sources connect this whole strategy to right now. They argue that the current economic times are not a time to be frozen with fear.
Absolutely not. Historically, times of uncertainty and fear are times of maximum opportunity. The wealthiest people in the world, they wait for moments like this. When everyone else freezes up or retreats, that's the perfect window to expand and increase their wealth because the competition is stagnant.
But you can't do that if you're paralyzed by inertia.
You have to be ready. If you have your definite chief aim, your faith is strong, and you're ready to make those rapid decisions, you're perfectly positioned to break away from the pack. The conclusion is always the same. You have to get that cycle started. You have to engage in action no matter how small that first step is. And if we just connect all these dots, the real power of the cycle is that action doesn't just create results. Action fuels desire. Desire strengthens faith. And that stronger faith enables even more action.
The inertia of motion.
Once you achieve it, it becomes the mechanism that guarantees you keep going.
So what does this all mean for you listening to this right now?
It brings us right back to that core paradox we talked about. We all have access to this information. We know fundamentally what the framework for success looks like. We all know what to do. The entire challenge is in the doing. So if you know these principles, but you still feel stuck, your job isn't to go find new information. Your mission is to look inward and identify that specific internal barrier. Is it that sense of unworthiness? Is it a fear of failure? What is interrupting your faith or your decision stage and stopping you from taking that first critical step into motion?
That's the real deep dive then. Looking inward to remove the friction, that is a compelling challenge to leave you with. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the power of desire, faith, and action.